What's up,
What's up,
everybody?
everybody?
Welcome back to Mindset Mogul Podcast. We're your hosts, Josh Jacobs and Bradley Mora, and we are back with a Q&A for you today. Super excited about today's episode because it really hits home. We got a question from Steve about accountability that you'll hear in a second. We discussed kind of how we've struggled with similar things and what we've done to help improve that over the last few months. I went on a couple long rambles, so I apologize in advance for that. But I think you'll get some stuff out of the episode. So I hope you enjoy. Brad, what's going on, brother? You feeling good?
Feeling good, baby.
All right, good. All right, guys, you're going to hear us in the next episode. Enjoy, and we'll see you in a second. All right, so today we have a question from Steve. And the question says, first of all, thank you, Steve, for your question. It says, "Hi guys, I run a marketing agency and have no trouble keeping myself accountable when it comes to anything business related. However, when it comes to my personal life, I don't hold myself accountable very well. What have you guys done to improve your self accountability in your personal lives?" Steve, again, thank you so much for this question. We wanted to answer it because it hits home for both of us right now, I know, and it's something that we've been talking about a lot over the last few months, and you've probably heard us talk about on the pod, which is why you asked about it. So very excited to dive into this today. Brad, I guess before we even jump into what we've been doing, let's talk a little bit about the difference between like business and personal and accountability and all the things that come along with it. So I guess just to start off, have you had any problems similar to Steve with being accountable to your business but not to yourself, or being accountable to yourself but not your business, or accountability in general with both? Like, have you experienced anything that Steve is talking about? Because I know I have. I kind of just want to relate to him a little bit to get into why we've done the things that we've done recently.
I think it's always been easier to keep accountability in a business setting. And I think it has to do with the level of expectation that is set when whether you're working in a business or you're running a business. It's just more well established, at least in my own experience, it's more well established that there are things you need to track. There are boundaries, there are rules. It's like you do this and it causes that outcome. And in business, at the end of the day, the numbers in the bank account are this clear metric for whether you're being successful or not. So I think the metric for success is very clear. Is the business growing? Are you staying cash flow positive? And so the inherent rigor that just exists around business makes it easier to stay accountable. It's like, if you're not being accountable to a certain sense, because the North Star metric for what you're doing is very well defined, whether you pick growth of the business or the money coming in or whatever it is, but you've got a bank account to look at to measure against. And so I guess for me, it's either that or, if you're working for somebody, they're giving you feedback. You're getting like somebody's forcing you to be accountable. So if you're running your own business, it's like the numbers speak to you. If you're working for somebody, there's literally somebody telling you whether or not you're doing a good job and holding you accountable, your manager in that case. And so in business, it's just conditioned from day one. These things are done for you. And then when it comes to your personal life, and that's why I think people hire coaches, is at the end of the day, it's on you. Like, unless you do something about it, you're alone in the journey to become the best version of yourself, however you define that. And it's so much easier to fall off because accountability is just until you put some structure into place, accountability is you just thinking about and judging yourself for how you're doing, which that's not actually a system. It's not actually a consistent way to create accountability. It's actually a lack of accountability when really it's just your own internal reflection on how you're performing is the best mechanism you have to keep you on the path for however you want to treat your health, your relationships, the things that live outside of business. And so I've suffered from that. I mean, forever. Like, it comes in seasons and waves, and you've got extra motivation, and that internal voice in your head that says, hey, I'm going to be playing by these new rules, guides you on that path. But eventually that voice quiets, or you hit some false milestone in, you're like, finally, now I feel good. I can let the gas off the pedal. And so you have all these loose rules that just live in your head. And I think that's how I've operated for a long, long time. The only exception of that was actually doing a 75 hard, which is a great example of you start to run your life like a business at least a little bit more because you've got rules and accountability for actions that you need to be taking. And so, yeah, 75 Hard was just a good example. It was a window into starting to run your life more like a business where you've got rules, you've got accountability, only in this case, just having a program in place. So, all in all, a long-winded way to say, Steve, I get it. And I think everyone's steady state and baseline is to live in, live in that. There's probably some small percentage of people that are born with that self-discipline, or if you were in the military and you just carry that with you for the rest of your life. But I would say 99% of people suffer from the same thing. And it's just harder to get right in your personal life.
And I agree with you about the structure. Like you walk into a business and you kind of know the goal of the business is to make money. And there's a couple things when it comes to that. I guess for me personally, like my goal was always to make money. It wasn't to like be in shape to, become the best version of myself. My goal was get rich. So when your goal is get rich, it's easier to be accountable to the business than it is to yourself when that's your goal. The business is going to make you rich. So when you're thinking about long-term goals and what sort of goals you need to help you stay consistent in your daily life, if you have no goals for your personal life of, I want to be this in shape, I want to have, I want to have a six-pack, I want to eat healthy, I want to have a family, I want to have kids, I want to be able to be active in my older years. Like if you think about all those goals, it may make it a little bit easier for you to be accountable to yourself because you have these goals and you have these, as Brad called them, like success metrics that you're measuring up against, versus with a business, like, from day one, the goal of the business is to make money. And if your goal and your only goal is to make money, you're going to stay more accountable to that than you would going and working out or eating healthy or whatever. You may sacrifice working out and eating healthy in order to go to the business and make money. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I completely forgot what I was going to say, and I should have wrote down, that will hopefully come back to me at some point in this pod. But I think that, there's a lot of similarity between, like what Brad said, running your life and running your business. And if you can run your life more like you run your business, then you will probably see greater results in your mindset. So, for example, one of the things that we just did is in business, we set up EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. This was about 4 or 5 months ago. And the idea of EOS is that you track everything. Like if you were to be put on a deserted island with no computer access, you couldn't see any of your numbers. Like what would you need to know about your business to be able to make a decision, in that moment? So every single piece of the business that you need, like for us, it's, our cost per click, our cost per acquisition, our cost per lead, the number of, average matches per lead. I could list a bunch of them, but basically it's every single thing that we need to know. And there's like over a dozen things that we track, and we track it all weekly. And the same thing is true for your personal life. Like me and Brad actually just built this tracker for us. And I can already tell that it's going to be a big game changer in my life because it tracks every day our workouts. It tracks our water. It tracks our alcohol consumption, if any. It tracks our reading. It tracks our mood. And I believe that the fact that we are tracking all these things, not only weekly, but daily, is going to not only help keep us accountable, but also be a motivator of like being able to see it on paper and how we're feeling in the moments of when we're treating ourselves right is going to be a major game changer. So I know I had 2 things on my mind when I took over the convo, and both of them I forgot as soon as I started speaking. So I apologize for that long ramble. But yeah, man, I think there are a lot of steps that you can take, Steve. If you're accountable already in your business, you probably do some of these things that we're already talking about, and you can translate that into your personal life. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to discipline. You can get an accountability partner if you want, somebody like Brad, where we're tracking each other, but you have to be careful about who that person is because it's just as easy to give each other outs. Like Me and Brad have even caught each other like almost giving each other outs and then catching ourselves like, no, 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 we're going to do this. And especially if it's like somebody you live with at home, like your wife or a spouse, something like that, it's very easy to give into each other into those instant gratification moments. So be careful on that as well. I don't know if you have anything to add to that part, Brad, but I'll try to remember what the hell I was going to say a little while ago.
I think you hit on a couple of good things. At the highest level, I will just say probably the people in our audience, most 20s, 30s males, and I'm sure this applies to females too, but you can get caught up prioritizing work as the only thing. And so, first and foremost, the reason that Steve, your situation is what it is, and you're not unique because I've been in this situation and constantly been battling it. Josh is in this situation, constantly battling it. But business just feels like a bigger priority. So when you're making trade-offs, business seems to come first. So I think that's problem one, is just the high level reprioritization of what you care about and figuring out how to balance those. It's like, are you going to work the extra hour on work, or can you go get the workout in? And if you're constantly choosing work, you're never going to solve the problem. So there's an exercise of writing down what your priorities are. And if you really want to prioritize health or relationship or things outside of work, you need to be very intentional about doing that. So that was one thing I heard from you. And then the second thing is, why don't we start taking the best practices from running a business and start applying them to the other parts of your life? And the quote we had talked about is, whatever gets measured gets managed. And that's in the context of business, but the same exact things apply to your everyday life. And so picking the activities that you know will lead you to be healthy and be happy and have elevated mood and just generally have a good life experience, you tracking yourself against those things, I think it's an unlock to start treating your life like a business and having accountability, even if it's just personal accountability at first. And so, yeah, us creating a tracker is our first step towards treating our own lives like a business. And then also over time, you can really build a picture of staying accountable against things, and then take it one step further and even better, have somebody in the tracker with you calling you on your bullshit when you don't actually get it done, which when you think about it is a similar thing to business as well. Basically, Josh is my like, life manager, and I'm his life manager. We're helping to actually manage to the accountability that we're setting out to have. And so the structure of business and life, they end up converging, because really it's just the best practices of how to create optimal human behavior. And all the same principles apply. It's just more lucrative to do it in business. And so that's why I think people start there. But the reality is all the same principles apply.
And you just made me think of probably the most important part of all, which is if you start becoming more personally accountable and take care of the things that you need to in your personal life, your business is only going to excel. The better that you become as an individual, the better that you are going to work on your business and the better results that you are going to achieve. So simply by you focusing on the accountability to yourself is going to help you not only be more accountable to your business, but grow the business, because you're going to be a better person. And the better of a person you are, the better of a business you can run. So I think that is probably the most important thing to consider. If your goal, if you're like me or how I used to be, and your number one priority is getting rich, which, like I said, for a number of years was my only priority, this will help be a motivator for you to actually take care of your personal life and get rich in return. Like if somebody would have told me 10 years ago or 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whenever I was 18, if somebody would have told me that you will be exponentially richer the more you focus on developing yourself and improving yourself, I would have viewed personal development a lot differently, because at the time my motivator was money. Now my motivator isn't just money. It's things outside of that, but it's also still money. And part of the things that I tell myself when I need to do the things I need to do in my personal life is the fact that if I do these things, it will likely open up more abundance and financial opportunities and things of that nature. So you can even use that as a motivator if that is, I'm assuming that you have, and I could be wrong, but I'm assuming because you're a business owner, because you're accountable to your business and not as much to your personal life, that's probably important to you, is building a strong financial future. I would say focus on the fact that your financial future will be even stronger the stronger that you become as an individual and the more accountable that you are to yourself. So I think that's a super important point to hit on that I know will resonate with some people. Do you have anything else? I mean, I think that was honestly,
I think that was good.
yeah, I know I rambled a lot there, so I apologize if you made it to this far in the episode, but I do think there was some value there of track. I would say if there's an audience exercise for today, it's to, even if it's on your iPhone or on a piece of paper, like just write down what we all have this instinct of like, we know what we're supposed to be doing. You know that you should be working out every day. You know that you should be sticking to a healthy, nutritious plan. You know that you should be reading 10 pages a day. You know that you should be staying hydrated and drinking water. You know that you should avoid alcohol as much as possible. Like, you know these things instinctually. So write down on a sheet of paper or on your iPhone or wherever the things that you know that you should be doing and you should be staying accountable for, and start there. Like, just do those things for today and then do those things for tomorrow and keep track of them on a piece of paper, on your iPhone, on an Excel spreadsheet, however the hell you want to do it. And just start by simply tracking it so that you can tell, hey, I did these things this day and I felt, my score was an 8 out of 10. And I messed up these days and my score the following day was a 4 out of 10. And over time, you'll be able to see like, well, I see that when I didn't read and I didn't work out, the following day, my mood was only at a 4. And that must be directly related. Or when I had a few alcoholic drinks, my mood the next day was at a 3. Like, you'll be able to dive into that data over time, which again, if you're a business owner, you're going to like that stuff. And you'll be able to see how you feel based on the actions that you've taken that day, and reinforcing that in your mind every single day over a consistent period of time will just begin to rewire your brain of what your actual priorities are in your life. So that's how I'll end it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Brad, but that's where I'm at.
No, I think that's fantastic.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening, watching today. If you got any value out of this episode, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment with your question if you want it answered. Give us a like on the video. Leave a 5-star review and share the show on Apple, Google, Spotify, any of those platforms. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next episode.
Take care.